Good afternoon. I am Gail Carr-Williams, Board Chair for the Nashville Metropolitan Transit Authority. Again, thank you for joining this special WebEx video conference meeting of the MTA Board. And today is Thursday, January 28th, 2021. And due to the continued and ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and the continued declaration of a state of emergency by Governor Bill Lee, we are continuing to hold this meeting without objection via video conference in order to conduct essential MTA business while protecting the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans. This meeting will be held in accordance with Governor Lee's Executive Order number 71. So before we get started, I'm going to turn it over to Monica just to go over all of our housekeeping rules and matters so we can keep this meeting moving in a smooth and orderly fashion. So, Monica, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. We just ask that everyone to please remember to mute your phone and or your computers until you're acknowledged to speak by Chair Williams. Also, please remember to use the raise your hand feature to ask a question and or comment on a particular board item. And remember to lower your hand when you're done speaking. Lastly, when it's time to vote, all board members will be asked to unmute, and all those in favor of a particular item will vote by saying aye. Those opposing an action item will need to state their name for the record. These are our housekeeping rules.
Well, thank you, Monica. I appreciate it very much. I appreciate your getting us together all the time and making certain that this runs smoothly and efficiently. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So to call this meeting to order, the first order of business will be a roll call. So as I say your name, please repeat your name and say present, please. Janet Miller.
Janet Miller, present.
Hannah Paramore Breen.
Hannah Paramore Breen, present.
Walter Searcy.
Walter Searcy, present.
Mary Griffin.
Mary Griffin, present.
Gail Carr-Williams, present. Thank you very much. Additional attendees, please note your presence when I call your name. Board Secretary and General Counsel.
Margaret Bam, present.
Chief Executive Officer Steve Bland.
Present.
Chief Financial Officer Ed Oliphant.
Ed Oliphant, present.
Chief Operating Officer Bill Miller.
Bill Miller, present.
Chief Development Officer Trey Walker.
Trey Walker, present.
Director of Service Quality Dan Freudberg. I'm sorry, Dan.
No problem. Dan Freudberg, present.
Project Engineer Lydia Benda.
Lydia Benda, present.
Senior Executive Assistant and Board Liaison Monica House in the house.
Monica House is present.
Thank you. I appreciate all. So the first action item on our agenda is approval of the December 17th, 2020 minutes. If I can have a motion for approval. So moved. And that is Hannah is moving. And if I can have a second, please.
Second, Janet Miller.
Janet Miller is the second. And any discussion? If there is no discussion, all of those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So, you know, usually I make you say your name and say aye, but I think we can identify the voices by this time. So, any opposed? And with there being no opposition, the motion carries. We have our minutes. So the next item on our agenda are the public comments, and I have two names that have been submitted to me requesting to make public comments, and that's Mr. Darius Knight and Mr. John Bull. Mr. Knight, are you present? Mr. Darius Knight, are you present? He may be coming on, so until he comes on, Mr. Bull, are you present? John Bull, are you present?
I don't see either one of them on the line. I do see a call-in number. However, I don't know if that's either one of them, but both of them did email their public comments in.
Okay.
So I do have their public comments.
And if you could send those out to us so we can see them and then we can make them also a part of the record, that would be great. And should either one of them call in at any point during the call, we'll try to take a break along the way to make certain that they're allowed to sort of come in and make their comments. So for this time, it will temporarily close the public comment section of our agenda. Thank you very much. And I just want to say to Mr. Knight and Mr. Bull, I appreciate their diligence in always making certain that they bring to us public comments to help us to improve our service for all Nashvillians. So whether or not they're on or not, I just really appreciate that they do take the time, particularly during this time period. So Mr. Searcy, Operations and Finance Committee.
Yes, ma'am. We are here. The committee has assembled. Madam Breen is in her important position. I know the gavel is near her hand. And we will now call Ed Oliphant to front and center to give us our monthly financials.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. You will see the financials on pages 13 and 14 of the board pack. This is the financials through November that we're reporting on. If you have it in front of you, I will be looking at basically the right-hand side, the year-to-date, now that we're 5 months into the year. Just as a reminder to the board, we do have, this budget is based on full service, so we should see favorable variances since we're running reduced services. And I'll just jump right in. As far as the operating revenues, overall, we are down in operating revenues, but that is mainly due to RTA running reduced services under our contract revenues, as well as the rent abatements that we are doing with Premier and Dunkin' Donuts. One positive note is that Dunkin' Donuts did reopen, I believe, the last week of December, and we should start getting some rent checks from them again, which is a very good thing. As far as the actual fares and access ride, we're actually running a little bit more favorable than what we thought we would in this pandemic. So we're a little bit favorable there. As far as the federal, state, local, you can see that the local assistance is maxed out. We have maxed out our $27.3 million from Metro and are utilizing the CARES Act, as you can see in the bottom there of that section. As far as the expense categories, as I mentioned a second ago, you can see that everything is favorable except for labor and fringes. The one area of concern, and I mentioned this at our last board meeting in October, is we are seeing an uptick in our health insurance costs under our health plans. I have talked to our health care consultants. Their other clients are also seeing raised or increased health insurance or health expenses, and the only thing that they can figure out is that people are paying more attention to their health, because most of our claims, we have very little as far as COVID related, less than $300,000 of our approximately $7 million in expenses is related to COVID. So we will continue to look at that. That will be a main topic of conversation in our CBA negotiations with the union that will be forthcoming as well. All the other expenses, again, are favorable due to the reduced services. On page 14, we have the balance sheet. Nothing of great magnitude here other than to highlight that we have not had to borrow on our line of credit. Again, thanks to the CARES Act. And then at the bottom of the page on 14, you see our accounts receivable and payable agings. And just for transparency again, on the accounts receivable side, we are due about $312,000 from RTA for the services that we provided the Southeast Corridor. Those have been paid in December. And on the accounts payable side, we owed them owed RTA about $19,000 related to fare collections or other things that ticket sales that we have for them that we pay back to them. And unless there's any other questions, that will conclude my report on the financials.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, are there questions? Or ladies, are there any more questions of Ed?
None for me.
Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Oliphant. We will now ask Mr. Freudberg to assume the front and center position.
All right. Thank you, sir, and good afternoon. we're looking at the operations dashboard report, beginning on page 16 in the printed packet. Again, as far as ridership goes, just be very brief there. Overall, things have really stabilized with our ridership system-wide being down right about 50%. No significant changes there, but of course we do hope to see that begin to tick back up as vaccines begin to be more widely distributed. But it's going to be quite some time before we get anywhere close to our previous system levels. I did want to note on the cost per scheduled revenue hour of service that we do see a significant increase there compared to this time last year. But again, this is a direct reflection of the fact that we are operating a reduced level of service while we have we continue to maintain the similar level of fixed costs, administrative costs, and of course some additional expenses related to cleaning and that kind of thing. So we would expect the cost per revenue hour of service to go back down quite a bit when we get into our April service changes in the spring and begin to get closer back to full service levels. I did want to note under the safety statistics section that there's been a slight modification to the report format. You might recall we used to have an internal and external accident designation shown here. Mm-hmm. The only difference between those two categories was actually whether the accident occurred on MTA owned or managed property or if it was on public right-of-way. We, of course, continue to track those kinds of details on an ongoing basis in terms of trying to figure out what are the primary causes of accidents and try to inform our retraining processes. But we just went ahead and removed that distinction here to clean up the report a little bit because, again, the only distinction was whether we own the property or not where on the location of the accident occurred. Going to go ahead and move over to page 17 just to highlight one metric there. Which again is our bus trip completion percentage under service quality, and I'm just focusing on that on the fiscal year to date numbers because I did want to highlight that we're actually at 99.9% trip completion percentage there, which is a testament to all of the work that our operations department is going into maintaining a high quality of service during this time. We continue to stage additional vehicles on standby in case we have any type of service disruption due to accident, incident, breakdown, what have you, so we can resume service, normal service as quickly as possible, and that is helping to maintain social distancing. Some of those vehicles are actually dispatched directly to address any overcrowding concerns that may be reported by operators as they occur as well. So I did want to highlight that. Unfortunately, we're going to see a bit of an impact to that particular statistic this time in next month's report due to the unfortunate incident on Christmas Day downtown that resulted in us having to suspend service momentarily. But that I did want to highlight that in terms of what we're doing to continue to promote social distancing, and did want to mention as we get closer to spring service changes, we are looking strategically at where it makes sense to increase service, both to continue to promote social distancing on an ongoing basis, but also to position ourselves well to be able to respond to the eventual increase in demand that we hope to see later on in the year. As we continue to get the pandemic more under control. And with that, unless there are any questions, that concludes my report.
Dan,
I actually have a question. Go ahead, Walter.
You go ahead, yeah. I'll follow you.
Okay, my question is probably an unanswerable one, but it relates to your last statement about hoping to get ridership back up. How do you figure out how to model next fiscal year on what ridership, based on COVID coming back, how in the world do we model what we think that ridership will do from a timing standpoint? I mean, does it come back in July? Does it come back in October? Do you phase it up? How are you guys approaching that? And I know it's really difficult to forecast when we're in this pandemic, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, the short answer is that we can't be certain exactly what that demand curve is going to look like over time. So what we're looking to do with this first set of changes is to really ramp up the level of service that we're providing on our most frequent corridors where we see the heaviest demand existing already, and where we know, based on pre-pandemic levels of ridership, that we can expect to see the most demand return. And also we're paying attention to just, general, longer term predictions and trends related to how commuter patterns might change. But I would say the short answer is we don't know for sure. So we're trying to position the system to be able to respond to increases in demand where we anticipate them to occur well in advance, and then we can make further adjustments as we see what those actual numbers are.
Yeah, I think that's all we can do, right? So thank you.
Janet, this is Steve Bland. I'd add one or two other points. Dan's correct in what he said. The other thing is we look at some of what our pre-COVID significant markets were and certain triggers for those. And the best example is Metro Nashville Public Schools. Right. When schools are in session, typically school students can make up almost 10% of our total ridership. So obviously when Metro Nashville makes a decision to go back into the classroom, that will trigger a service response on our part. And the other is on the MTA side, we've suspended most of our our office commuter-oriented services because, frankly, so many folks are working from home. But on the RTA side, we continue to operate the regional routes, and they are at a severely depressed. They're down anywhere from 80 to a little bit over 90% ridership. So as we start to see that market come back, and you may see it before we do in your line of work, but as we start to see that market come back on the RTA side, it's a good trigger to start looking at those markets. And then the rest of it, I guess our expectation is you're not going to see like one day some event happen where everybody comes back. It's as people get employed again, as people go back to work, as people come out for social reasons, it'll likely come, in waves as opposed to in one big flood.
I think a lot of the downtown employers, the large ones, are trying to shoot for like a July 1. So I do think that, assuming everything progresses with the vaccine, so hopefully that will be true. Thank you.
And Dan touched on the fact that we're trying to build back our primary corridors that carry almost 70% of our total ridership in those top 8 routes. Build those back on schedule. As we see demand pop up in other areas, he mentioned the fact that we use the helper buses to deal with social distancing where we see overcrowding. So on some of what I would call the more niche routes, if we start to see those markets pop up, as we have through the course of the entire pandemic on the overall system, we can deploy resources really on a day-to-day, almost minute-to-minute basis if something unusual or unexpected pops up.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah. Dan, this is Walt. My concern has been consistently focused on the operators and their safety during the pandemic. And of course, acknowledging now that we lost one of our operators to the virus since the last meeting. And I'm concerned about what protocols exist and how they can be enforced to compel riders to adhere to what we're requiring them to adhere to. And this is particularly true as now the 46 has mandated that federal protocol.
Walter, we might have lost you there.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm good.
Just cut out for a second.
Did you get the gist of the question?
Yes, I believe so, and I'll definitely ask Bill Miller and Steve to weigh in on this a little bit. But we have processes in place where we monitor what the levels of compliance are on our vehicles right now. We do some targeted, I would say, you can call it enforcement. It's really more education, and what we've noticed is that the vast majority of our riders right now are complying with the mask mandates in that they have masks on their person or they're wearing them in some way. But we do have a challenge with sometimes with people wearing the PPE in the correct manner to protect themselves and to protect the public and our operators. And so I think education is going to be a big part. I mean, it is now and it will be moving forward. And certainly, Steve or Bill, if there's any specific actions that you'd like to highlight that we're taking in that area as well, it's definitely something that we have to take seriously as sort of pandemic complacency can kind of take hold in some people's minds.
I'll jump on with a few points, Walter, and then Bill can kind of fill in the blanks. First of all, and we've talked about this over the months as we've put things in place, and we've been recognized early on as kind of a leader in developing these protocols. Started really back in February and March, working very closely with Metro Public Health to examine all of our practices. But some of the key areas in operator protection, and we got terrific both cooperation, a lot of suggestions from our collective bargaining agent, ATU Local 1235. Obviously, the installation of the protective shields in the operators' compartments has been key. Mandating facial coverings as per the mayor's order has been key. Dan alluded to, we do both through our onboard live monitoring as well as reviewing video surveillance data. We monitor facial covering adherence, both on a system level, and as of the report I got last week, we're at about 85% compliance among our customers. And then if we're seeing, there's a particular router or a particular time of day or particular trips where they're falling short, we actually have deployed our contracted security personnel, who typically are mostly focused on WeGo Central. We'll go out and ride, and to Dan's point, are more involved in educating folks, handing out information about the virus, handing out masks. At the onset of the pandemic, the Federal Transit Administration provided us with 22,000 masks. We've handed all those out, and now we're getting an ongoing supply through Metro Health. So I've been extraordinarily proud of our folks. And frankly, when we looked at the executive order, it's sort of like, check, we're doing everything it calls for. The open issue, and one that I think the federal government's going to struggle with in terms of regulatory, is because of the Americans with Disabilities Act, if you physically can't wear a mask, we can't require you to. So that's one I think that is sort of a challenge. And then the other thing I would highlight is Nick Oldham, our safety manager, stays in constant contact with Metro Nashville Public Health, and certainly no WeGo employee, but actually no one in the city who has tested positive for COVID has had that case traced back to the use or being on public transportation. So as long as the precautions are taken and people are acting in a responsible manner, much like in restaurants and everywhere else in public life now, perfectly safe. But I can't tell you how proud I am of all of our operating staff, our operators on up, for their involvement. And Nick Oldham is at this point probably a national expert on transit efforts to contain the pandemic.
Yeah.
Bill, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, no, I think you really covered it all, Steve. The only thing I'd add to that is that, and you did mention the cleaning measures, which we did have the health department review our measures early on, the end of last February, beginning of March. And we do both the fogging with the foggers and the wipe down of the vehicle. As you mentioned, the protective barriers are installed on all the large bus fleet now. The only thing I'd add that I don't think was mentioned yet is that we do repeat an audio message on the buses from time to time, reminding the patrons about the proper wearing of the mask and to wear a mask. And if we do have a situation where we have a patron that just boards and refuses to put the mask on, we have them, when they get into Central, we will have the Metro police officers meet that bus there and talk to that patron about wearing a mask. So I think that pretty much covers everything with everything you said and Dan said of what we're doing. So that's all I'd add.
Great. Thank you.
The
Any other
wording
questions?
should also fit in our code of conduct, correct? That we have out.
It is, but it actually goes beyond the code of conduct because it is city, essentially by city order. So it's the law.
Yes.
Okay. Madam Chairperson, if there's nothing else, we'll go to our next item.
Thanks, Mr. Cersei. On to the next one. You have one more.
Yes, we have the Gresham and Smith Partners A&E contract and the extension thereof. The query is who is leading that discussion?
Lydia Benda, Walter.
Okay. Ms. Benda, please lead us on.
Okay, thank you. So the Murfreesboro Transit Signal Control Project is a $15.9 million project in which we've partnered with Metro Public Works and Metro Information Technology Services to upgrade the Murfreesboro and Bell Road Route 55 corridor. The plan accommodates pedestrians and transit users by installing a system enabling a bus that is 2 or more minutes behind schedule to communicate to the traffic control system, to modify the upcoming signals, to prioritize the bus through the next intersection. So the project also provided an opportunity to upgrade the amenities on the corridor, including 23 new bus shelters and real-time bus arrival signs, new pedestrian push buttons and indications, ADA compliant ramps at signalized intersections, and 5 bus queue jump lanes. The infrastructure corridor improvements were substantially complete in June of 2019, with final construction completion in May of 2020. Currently, we are working through final testing and acceptance of the new state-of-the-art traffic management software system. Gresham Smith has had a key project management role in this innovative Murfreesboro Transit Signal Priority Project since 2016, with the contract expiring in December of 2020. The contract DBE goal is 15%, and the DBE participation is at 15.73% through October 31st, 2020. It would not be practical or cost efficient to have another project management consultant come onto the team at this late stage in the project. The remaining project management tasks include completion of testing of the new state-of-the-art software, completion of a summary report, completion of necessary FTA documents, and other closeout tasks. So while the project is in the final software stages, we have experienced delays from the original project schedule attributable to the software acceptance issues, the COVID pandemic, a tornado on March 3rd, 2020, and a wind event on May 3rd, 2020. In the spring of 2020, Metro Public Works asked us to put the final software testing on hold while they were addressing limited COVID staffing and recovering from the tornado and wind events. The software vendor has struggled to deliver a correctly functioning transit signal priority system. The repeated failed software testing has required additional team efforts, including Gresham Smith's. So we are currently working with our team of experts to review and assure functionality of this new state-of-the-art traffic management software system. Nevertheless, we are still within the overall project budget limits, and we're using contingency funds for project completion. It is not necessary to increase the overall Gresham Smith contract amount or the project values. So we are asking the board today to authorize allocating $115,000 in contingency funds.
Lydia, you're really breaking up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll say that. So we're asking the board, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we are asking the board to authorize
Lydia,
allocating.
you're really breaking up.
I don't know why.
Steve, I think it might be
It's
you.
you.
because
I think we can hear.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Okay. Sorry. So I'm asking the board to authorize allocating $115,000 of contingency funds for the Gresham Smith Project Management Task Order for completion of the Murfreesboro Transit Signal Priority Project. The current software testing is going well, and we are optimistic that the software vendor will successfully pass in the next 2 weeks. We will then be able to move on to a burn-in period and close out the project according to the FTA schedule, and then we'll shift our focus to evaluation and providing input into new efforts. In the future, this system will be expandable to other transit signal priority ready corridors in Nashville. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me ask the first question.
Okay.
What happens when the software provider cannot provide us with what we're bargaining for
Well,
in the next 2 weeks? In the next 2 weeks.
We've been working very closely with the software vendor to go through and make sure that the system does function correctly. And of course, this has delayed the project completion. So we're being diligent to make sure that they pass all of the testing requirements. And we've gone through this 5 times. This is our 6th round of testing. And we are very optimistic that they will pass this time.
Well, I share your optimism. I just also know that if there's a 7th or 8th time, what does that do to this current?
Walter, this is Steve Bland.
Yeah.
Walter, this is Steve Bland. First of all, this particular vendor is, can you hear me?
Yes.
This particular vendor has more experience with this type of software than anyone in the country. They're complicated projects. Actually, it's one of the reasons we really do need Gresham Smith to stay on so they can bird dog this thing and make sure all the checklists are done. The direct answer to your question, though, is if ultimately they aren't able to successfully deliver the entire system as purchased, we would be in a contractual dispute with them. And we would have to resolve that mutually with Metro Public Works, who ultimately will be the, for lack of a better word, the guardian of the software. But to Lydia's point, we're optimistic. They've made tremendous progress, and they've never backed away from any of the commitments they made. So we're sure we'll get there.
Lydia, this is Hannah. Just can you kind of put the failures in perspective for us? How common is it not to pass the first 5 times?
How do I put that? Let's see. I think that because this is a state-of-the-art kind of system, yes, the software vendor, they are the predominant leader in this type of system, but we wanted to make sure that we looked under every rock to make sure that it's functioning correctly. It's quite a complicated system with a lot of pieces to it. And so there are opportunities to discover points of failure once you get into further testing. So we would get to a certain point of testing and notice there was a failure, and then the vendor needed to go back to address that issue. But we're optimistic, as I said, that they will pass at this time. And Gresham Smith, it's not they have been a great partner with us and a great leader in helping us move through this project and move through all of this testing. So we appreciate their involvement in this project.
I think I'm supposed to ask the question the same way everyone else has asked, but so you listed 3 reasons why we're here, which is the contractor, the COVID, and the tornado. So what percentage is due to the contract? I mean, is it 1/3, 1/3, 1/3? I mean, do they all share equally, or how much of this delay is based upon them more than it is COVID and the tornado? I guess that would determine my optimism, I guess.
Hey, Gail, this is Trey. I can jump in. I would, if we're kind of throwing qualitative numbers at things or quantitative numbers at things, I mean, a lot of the delay impact was with last year, and actually that's just having to freeze everything for a few months while Metro was adjusting their attention elsewhere. The delay on the software development side has to do with this being relatively new technology for them. We are the second city to kind of have a real strong go at this with this vendor, the first being Charlotte. They had a much broader rollout of this software, but they also had a pretty difficult experience as well getting to finalization of the contract. And so we've been in contact with them and kind of been in contact with the vendor here and trying to walk through where our areas are. It's also a issue of making sure that our systems are working and functioning correctly, the signals that we're emitting from our vehicles. So once we were able to align that, this is really our first go at testing since about mid-spring last year. And as Lydia stated, we're about 80% complete through our testing of each intersection by intersection. And so far, things are looking really good.
So it's new technology, and this is normal. That's what I'm hearing.
And guys, I want to chime in. Go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, just to emphasize Hannah's point, it's new technology. To some extent, that's normal. And then, frankly, with all of the crises, I don't know any other way to put it, that occurred through the course of the year, we on our team, and I include Metro Public Works in that, had to pull effort away, from time to time. The other thing I would highlight is what Lydia's saying is we're adding to Gresham Smith's contract because of the extra time. We're still within the project budget and schedule. So to Hannah's point on the innovative nature of it, you put more money in contingency to deal with the unknowns. So this is an issue where we're assigning more money to this task order to Gresham Smith because we're extending their time on the contract, but we're not adding money to the project.
Yeah, I wouldn't be back in software development for all the tea in China.
And Gail, you may remember some even tougher stories when we originally did our vehicle location system.
Yeah, I was getting a little PTSD from that, just saying. I don't know, Margaret may have been as well, so I don't know.
I believe Janet has her hand raised.
Yes,
I do. My thoughts were kind of threefold. One is we're on a horse that's 6/7 of the way across a stream, right? 6/8 across the stream. So I think that it just makes sense to continue. Number two, is it still within the budget that we put out? So to me, that's a sense of comfort. And third is, I think what we're all questioning doesn't have anything to do with Gresham. It has more to do with the software company. So it sounds like having Gresham continue on is going to be really important for the project to succeed. So for those 3 reasons, I would support this board action item.
All right. Sounds that all the queries have been addressed, and whether they've been satisfactorily addressed or not, I think Jan is correct that there's no reason to change the horse in 3/4 stream.
So, Mr. Searcy, does your committee have a recommendation for the entire board?
I sense that Ms. Paramore and I are on one accord on this, and we make the recommendation to the board that the recommendation of staff be approved.
Hey, Walter, put your power fist up in the air and we'll be in one accord. Okay.
All right.
All right.
It's up.
Hands up.
All right.
Well, it looks like we have a recommendation from the committee. Is there a motion?
Mary Griffin, I move to approve.
And since it is a recommendation from the committee, a second is not required. So all those in favor say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? So anyone abstaining? It looks like we have a unanimous ayes and the motion carries. So thank you, Lydia. Thank you very much. Good job. I think this may have been close to your first time at the table, no doubt.
I think so. That's second time.
Second. Well, welcome back again. So thank you very much and good job.
Thank you.
There's a lot of questions that came at you. So thank you.
This concludes the report of operations and finance for this meeting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Searcy. Good job.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Monica.
if I could jump in and let you know that both of our public commenters, they are on the line. And also the upcoming procurement projects list was not included in your packet, but it is available and on the screen for your review of upcoming projects.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I will defer to Ms. Miller if she wants us to take the public comments, or do you want me to defer to the end of your
No,
agenda
let's,
item?
let's take the comments. Let's take
Okay.
the comments now. I'm being nice. Let's do it.
Well, you're always nice, so that's good. So, Mr. Knight, are you available for a public comment? And I know I don't have to remind you that you have a 3-minute limitation.
Available.
Are you on? Or did I freeze?
Mr. Knight?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Just gotta make sure. All right.
You're on.
First off, how is everyone? Hope everyone is great.
Good.
Excellent. My comments are mainly about just making sure that, the operators continue to be safe. I reached out to staff because I was so concerned about the operators. I have seen just on my own a few customers on the 56 route that do not wear their mask. And it just kind of bothers me because sometimes they have to stand there for an extended period. And I just want to make sure that, those operators don't end up, with the situation they do not need to take it back to their family, because that would be horrible as well. Don't want to see a situation where you have a lot of drivers out, due to that fact as well. So I'm really happy to hear that there are efforts to kind of, watch this and to try to correct. But it's only so much that you all can do with that particular situation, because you really honestly can't force a person to wear their mask, unfortunately. I'm just hoping that there's some other issues or areas that maybe operations can look at on the buses that do have windows that can be opened, or on the newer buses from between the 1700s all the way up to the 20 vehicles that just started when going into revenue service, that maybe they can have at least the hatch open when it's not raining to try to make sure that the buses are staying circulated, because I've seen quite a few people cough and sneeze on other customers, which is a great concern. The other thing that I guess I would say is focused on the information that is now posted on the website for the spring changes. I see a lot of things on there that are very positive, that are going to actually help with everything that's going on as far as this pandemic, and especially with the 23 route and it's overcrowding at different times of the day. So I'm excited and happy about that. But again, as I usually do, I want to stress to you all to make sure that you all stay on council about funding, because that is going to be very important for this next fiscal year and, quite honestly, the next several fiscal years. You don't want to end up in a situation where council then says, oh, well, we don't have the money again. And then you're put in a situation where routes will be cut on a drastic level. So please keep that in mind. And to all of you, continue to remain safe. And, you know, if you can and if you see drivers, please say some words of encouragement to them to try to help them through their day. And that's all of my comments for today.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. You always come and bring great information for us to allow us to be better. So thank you very much, and Happy New Year, and you stay safe as well, okay? Next, Mr. Bull, are you on the line? John Bull? Monica, do you see him on the line?
He is an attendee, and he is unmuted. Mr. Bull, can you hear us? Mr. Bull. For some reason, Mr. Bull, are you there?
Yo, because I sent the email to kind of let you know that when I was actually on the phone line, it's not allowing you to speak, even, you know, like when you're on the call. So I'm not really sure what's going on, because I actually had an issue as well, just trying to even log on through WebEx.
Okay, well, we have his written comments, so Gail, for some reason, he's not able to speak. We have his written.
And again, you know, we're flexible enough that if he does come on and we get this fixed, that his comments are important, and we'll take a break and let him be heard. So in the meantime, Ms. Miller, I'll turn it over to you. You got guests today.
I do have guests today. I'm excited about our new initiatives committee today. We have one discussion topic, and I really am excited about it because it has two exciting things in it. It has adaptation of innovative technology, which to me is something we need to be looking at all the time. And we're talking about some federal grant awards. So really excited about that. So Dan is going to present on this topic. And then we're also excited. We have Ms. Faye DeMassimo from the mayor's office, who's going to tag team with Dan. And I think they've got a really interesting and positive report today. So I'm going to hand it off to Dan and to Faye. Faye, thank you for joining us today and for agreeing to present to our...
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Janet. Thank you.
You bet. All right, Dan, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you. Good afternoon again. Today I'll be providing a brief overview of some new technology and research initiatives that we're going to be kicking off shortly and how they'll improve service for our customers. And there are two recent grant awards that are supporting these initiatives. Next slide. So this just gives a quick overview of the award amounts and funding sources associated with these projects. And I do want to mention that many of the initiatives that we're discussing today have been on our wish list of things to pursue for quite some time. So we really appreciate the support of our project partners, the Federal Highway Administration, the Federal Transit Administration for providing the means to begin advancing these initiatives. Next slide. So these initiatives are supported by multiple project partners, and we've got a few of them listed here, and that includes university research teams at Vanderbilt and the University of Houston, as well as implementation partners at Metro Nashville, Department of Public Works, and TDOT. And something else that's a little bit unique to this approach, we're also partnering with a fellow transit agency in Chattanooga, CARTA, as well as Transit, which is the app development company that's responsible for providing one of the most popular transit trip planning and real-time information apps for customers, not just for here in Nashville, but really in the country and in the world. And Metro Nashville Public Works will be leading activities for the Charlotte Avenue Advanced Transportation and Congestion Management Technologies Deployment Project, which is a little bit of a mouthful, but that is the initiative that's sponsored by the Federal Highway Administration. And then we at WeGo will be managing activities associated with the COVID-19 Research Demonstration Grant that was awarded by the Federal Transit Administration. Next slide. So with any technology project, we're focusing on the application of research and technology to try to solve a problem. So we'll be looking at ways to improve service reliability with a focus on two current operational challenges, those being vehicle overcrowding and vehicle spacing, and they're closely related. And vehicle spacing is often referred to as headway management. And each of these are also tied closely to a metric that we also track on an ongoing basis, but on-time performance. Next slide. So vehicle overcrowding issues can themselves be caused by vehicle spacing problems. And so this is a clear, simple but clear depiction of the concept of what we refer to as headway management, or in this case, really what happens when you have headway management strategies that don't work. An inherent challenge to operating a frequent bus line is that the spacing between buses is unstable. In other words, a bus that gets behind for whatever reason, it could be traffic, unusual passenger loads, differences in driver behavior, anything. That bus tends to fall further behind because they end up picking up more passengers, and then the bus behind them and the sequence starts to catch up because it's picking up fewer passengers. And this results in what we call bus bunching, which is kind of shown on the bottom of the graphic here. And whatever the initial cause, the end result of bus bunching is longer and uneven wait times for customers and the potential for vehicle overcrowding. Next slide. So there are other causes of overcrowding and excessive wait times beyond just bus bunching. So in looking at ways to improve the customer experience and service reliability overall, we really need better information first, both historic information and real-time information about the number of people on a bus at any given time, and also information about the relative spacing between buses on the same route, especially on those frequent transit routes. And with that data, we can look to provide better information both internally and publicly. So the data can be used to update bus schedules, for example, adding an additional bus during times of heavy vehicle loads on a recurring basis. Buses can also be kept spaced through more real-time interventions, including automated modification of traffic signals, which is the focus of the Charlotte Corridor project, as well as active service management by our dispatchers. And what that really means is where we would have either automated or manual instructions sent from our central dispatch platform out to the bus operators themselves with specific actions designed to maintain bus spacing. Next slide. So many of these strategies that we're talking about today are focused on internal operations and on data analysis. And there is a benefit to customers, but it will be a bit subtle in terms of reduced service delays and more reliable spacing between vehicles. But there is one customer-facing initiative that the public may notice. We plan to work with our university partners and also the app company Transit to be able to provide vehicle load information directly within the smartphone app that many of our customers are already using for real-time bus information and trip planning purposes. And this information will provide the likely vehicle loads based on historic data, at least initially, and there's the potential for incorporation of more predictive and real-time data sources in the future. Next slide. This is a more detailed review of some of the activities that are specific to the Charlotte Pike Corridor project that is being led by our partners at Public Works, and this will serve as a test bed for headway management strategies. And similar to the Murfreesboro Pike Transit Signal Priority Project that's nearing final completion, we're looking at improving reliability through modifying signal timings to give transit an advantage. But what is a little bit different in this particular project is that the focus is going to be on maintaining vehicle spacing rather than specifically improving on-time performance relative to a fixed schedule. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to Faye DeMassimo, our Senior Advisor for Transportation Infrastructure with Mayor Cooper's office, to speak more on the Charlotte Avenue project and how these initiatives fit more within the city's broader vision of connected corridors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dan, and I appreciate again the opportunity to be with you all today and talk about these important initiatives. I know that we all remember that it really wasn't that long ago that we were all talking about the Metro Nashville Transportation Plan and the strong partnership in that plan that exists between WeGo Transit and the balance of our transportation assets, roads and bridges and signals and so forth throughout Metro Nashville. In that transportation plan that we all worked together to bring forward and was adopted in December, is a project called the MLK Junior Boulevard Charlotte Avenue Innovation Corridor. It was one of the corridors that we specifically included in the plan to enable us to do some demonstrations of technology and how we could test bed in a way technology such that it could be replicated in other places in our system with proven success. But it gave us an opportunity to try things, demonstrate, showcase, and so forth. And so we were very excited. Even while we were preparing the transportation plan, we brought forward a component of that corridor that we could apply for a grant opportunity. Remember, we're in an opportunistic funding strategy approach to implementation of the plan without dedicated funding right now. And we had identified this ATC MTD opportunity that was coming out of Federal Highway, but was multimodal. It certainly afforded us a great opportunity to collaborate with WeGo and work together to bring forward a project that could demonstrate in this very congested corridor what technology could do for us. So, of course, that corridor starts, fronts the state's Capitol building, and then continues across this densely developed area of building, developed corridor with 88,000 jobs and 16,000 residents living within a half a mile of the corridor within the segment between downtown Nashville and White Ridge Pike. Follows, of course, the Route 50 alignment from WeGo Central on 5th Avenue North to I-40 near the Nashville West Shopping Center. The component that we put forward for the ATC MTD grant opportunity was a piece that was really a combo of infrastructure, vehicle, and back office technologies that could do three primary things. One, enhance real-time monitoring of roadway and transit conditions on Charlotte Avenue, the dynamic management of Route 50 to optimize headways and capacities, as you've heard Dan describe, and then traffic signal upgrades that offer us the opportunity around signal prioritization that not only benefits transit, but overall congestion in this corridor, and it gives us the opportunity to improve safety, which we know is a top of mind topic for us in Metro Nashville. And we were actually a little surprised at our own success, but extremely grateful that the value of this project was recognized so promptly by Federal Highway Administration, and we found out actually at the very end of the year that we were funded. Again, a strong partnership project. This is a $3 million total project cost. $1.5 million will be coming from the Federal Highway Administration, $1 million from TDOT, and $500,000 from Metro Nashville. And again, we look so forward to working with WeGo on this, and to this being just the first in a long series of good news advancements for us out of the transportation plan for all of our modes in Metro Nashville over this coming year. So thank you very much again for the opportunity to be here today.
Dan and excuse me. Can you send us a copy of your slide presentation?
Yeah, we can definitely share a copy. That would be no problem. And Janet, I think you might have been muted there. So you're trying to say something.
Yeah. Lots of people would like to mute me. very often. But what I was saying is one of the great things about the mayor's transportation plan is the concept is that will help us get to more grant money. So to have such an early win on this, I think is just a great endorsement of the plan. So to me, that's super exciting. And I always love to learn in these meetings, and I had never heard of bus bunching before, so I learned something today. So what other questions or comments do we have from any of the board members?
I agree. I think the plan just poises us all the time to be ready to drop a project and to put a project in front of others to support it. And so it's great. And I'm excited about this. And we've been working on Charlotte for a long time, and to be able to enhance it even more than where it is right now is sort of great news, particularly as you drive up and down Charlotte. Lots of changes over there. So it'll be good.
I would mention to that end, I know this is a little bit beyond this topic, but you talked about being ready to drop towards those next opportunities. We just submitted another opportunity. I guess it was now about, Steve, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, and it's another multimodal opportunity. It's the Downtown Neighborhood Traffic Project, which really at its core is really all about how do we prioritize transit operations and traffic management coming out of our downtown that influences all of our systems of how we operate and how we can effectively deliver all the projects that are in the plan. Super important project that we're very excited about, but we submitted for a grant application on that one. We've got another one pegged to come up in April. And we are also aiming for the Bloomberg Mayor's Challenge, focusing on our equity by design tool development so that we can really build much stronger, much more strength into equity into all of our improvements, projects, and systems. So just know that there's a lot more coming. So exciting times.
That's great news.
It's great. Mary, I see you have your hand up. Do you have a comment or question? Mary Griffin?
Yes, just a comment as a bus rider that I'm very excited about the real-time monitoring, the signal prioritization. Bunching was new to me, but I think it looks great. And then now to hear also about further, grant opportunities. Thank you to the mayor's office, and I think this is wonderful. That's really kind of my comment. Thanks.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, Faye, you.
I just want to add, Faye, that you appear to be batting 1,000 since your arrival here in Nashville, and we're great. We are grateful, and we are blessed in having you here working with us.
Well, sir, I genuinely mean I'm the one who's blessed to be here, and such a remarkable city, such a remarkable area, and such great partners to work with. This is probably I was actually speaking to someone yesterday, and the mayor was sort of telling the story to someone about how I came over here, and I said it's absolutely the best professional decision I've made in my career. So I thoroughly enjoy being in service to the area and to you all. So we've got so many good things to come, and I am terribly excited about it. I hope you are too. So thanks.
Does anybody remember that $100 billion transit plan we worked on for so long?
Yeah.
What's your point, Ms. Breen?
My point is, it's like, when God says no, sometimes there's like a really good reason.
Well, that plan is still a part of what we do, and it does still serve as a guideline to help us take pieces of it and grow with it. Well, so I'm excited that we did do that.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean. Is like we're doing it, but without the $100 billion that we all have to pay back. I don't know. It just feels like we're still going. And we were like, oh, that felt like we're putting on the brakes, but it doesn't really feel like we're putting on the brakes anymore.
Oh, we got no brakes.
I remember them brakes. breaks are good in the transit business, so let's not, let's not.
Okay, I'll call you back. Margaret.
Please.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I don't want to
All right.
quit the board anymore. So
Okay, moving on. Dan, Faye, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, Ms. Williams, that concludes the New Initiatives and Community Engagement Committee.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Miller. And Faye, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for partnering with us. And, you know, it's a great partnership that continues to grow and continues to get better. Dan, thank you for all your expert work. It was a good discussion. Exciting. And as you say, Hannah, it looks like we're moving on, but we do have breaks and they do work. Because we have safety standards. Steve, I'm going to turn it over to you for your CEO's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Dan and Faye are a tough act to follow. Following up on Walter's comments earlier in the meeting, unfortunately and tragically, we did lose our first active employee to the coronavirus in this past month. And it's something that has hit all of us really hard. Larry Williams was a 10-year, very experienced, very accomplished operator, had outstanding records of attendance, safety, customer relations. He was a regular on the extra board. So he had experience with routes that bunch and routes that don't. And always was just glowed when he talked about his daughter. So very strong family man. And really just points to every morning we wake up and we hear the numbers associated with the virus, but so important to remember that it's associated with human lives and families and the people that they touch. So tough loss for all of us. And again, it makes us look to redouble our efforts to get through this thing with everybody as healthy as we possibly can. On a more positive note, I previously reported to you we were part of the city's post-Thanksgiving spike in cases. At one point, we had over 40 folks who were off duty for COVID leave, either had tested positive or were exposed and awaiting test results. Fortunately, like the rest of the city and apparently the rest of the country right now, and hopefully for the foreseeable future, we've come back down and our numbers have been in the 10 to 15 range. So we want to keep it that way until we get vaccinated and we come out of this thing. Our employees fall into the critical infrastructure category, so they aren't quite there yet in terms of the vaccination list, but we're working closely with Dr. Wright and the folks at Metro Health to make sure that they are as early on the list as we can possibly get them. And also, since it is apparently a shout out to Dan Day, I wanted to make another shout out to Dan and more specifically the folks who work with him in Access. You may recall back at the start of the pandemic, we partnered with Neighborhood Health Services to create opportunities in a very safe way for folks who do not have access to transportation but who are exhibiting symptoms of COVID to be tested. And we did that by contracting with a special provider who had specially separated vehicles and driver's partitions to do it very safely. We're partnering with Metro Health and with MDHA now as some of our more vulnerable residents are up for the vaccinations, particularly right now, folks in the over 75 category. When they arrange their appointments with Metro Health, if they do not have access to transportation, we are setting them up for access rides. They don't necessarily have to be an Access registered client, but we're working with Metro Health and MDHA to get their client bases into this system. In contrast with the testing program, these are not folks who have either exhibited symptoms or tested positive, so we are able to accommodate them on the normal access system, kind of ideal with some of the extra capacity that we have right now. So thanks to Dan, Marilyn Yoakley, and all the folks at Access who worked to put that together. Also heard reference to our public comment period for our service changes. We are net adding back more service, putting service back on the street in the spring. But we are also formalizing, because as you recall, when the pandemic started, we did a lot of kind of on-the-fly service adjustments reflecting keeping our operators safe and just reduced demand overall. the Federal Transit Administration was somewhat relaxed in the regulations of public hearings and all of the normal Title VI and equity analysis we do. But it's been coming up on a year, so we felt the need to kind of memorialize that in the more proper regulatory framework. So we are out for comment now for changes to the system, including memorializing the suspension of some of our services that likely will take much longer to return. And as we're saying to folks, we need to adapt to whatever that changing demand is. We also need to adapt to whatever the changing financials might be. And I heard Mr. Knight in his remarks comment on, the upcoming city budget season. We did get our budget call from Metro Finance just last week. Our budget submissions are due in mid-February. And as we've talked about with the board, we will be asking for our baseline budget, so getting back to where we were prior to the pandemic, plus inflation, and then also submitting proposals for some of the better bus enhancements to further improve service to our customers. We've also submitted, as requested to Metro Finance, our proposals for a potential upcoming capital spending plan. Those conform to prior board-adopted capital plans, as well as the recently adopted city transportation plan. So mostly we'll be seeking money this year to match our available state and federal grant funds, to do additional stop and shelter upgrades in our network, and to advance more of our transit center projects, and as well as some possible fleet expansion to move toward better bus. Over the past few months, we've been supporting Mayor Cooper's Sustainability Advisory Committee, a really extensive public outreach effort involving dozens of volunteers. And just this past week, the committee released its final report and recommendations to Mayor Cooper, and those are available certainly on Metro's website. But it was certainly our pleasure to participate and to be actively engaged in that process. Speaking of partnerships and advanced planning for things long-term, we've been actively working with the Airport Authority as they plan the extension of their runway 2L. For those of you who fly, you'll know that the airport's in the midst of billions of dollars of expansion and renovation. And one of the upcoming projects is an extension of the runway that goes over Murfreesboro Road to facilitate potential direct service to Asia in the future. So as you know, the airport has been an early and often collaborator in planning how their facilities can interact with future transit enhancements in Nashville. And likewise with this project, they met with our engineering staff to make sure that that any future transit upgrades in the Murfreesboro corridor could be accommodated with the runway project. So that's been very positive. Other capital projects that are moving at a good pace was Faye and Dan talked about the funding for the technology initiatives. It was a really good month for our grants department, in addition to the FTA COVID demonstration grant. We were notified by TDOT that we were successful in our $2.7 million application for Improve Act funds to support construction of the North Nashville Transit Center. So now that funding package for the center is fully completed, and we can move hardcore into design and ultimately construction. And our project team had a meeting with Dugard Communications, who will be supporting our public outreach efforts in that neighborhood as we move into design. Nolensville Pike Shelter Project continues to hum along. The two sites currently under construction are the larger stations at the Walmart down along Nolensville Pike. Next month, Trey and Lydia and the group will be giving you an update on the overall project, but we'll also be talking in some detail about our proposed fairground stations, which are a little bit more complicated, both because of the evolving nature of the design of the fairgrounds project and possible intersection changes, as well as the fact that that particular area is in the Browns Creek floodplain. We expect in March to be bringing you a recommended construction contract award for the Hillsborough Pike Transit Center. Infrastructure work along Hillsborough Pike is going on as we speak related to the school project, so we expect to dovetail our construction efforts into what the city and what the school district's doing with Hillsborough High School fairly smoothly. Quick ticket fare collection program is humming along with beta testing. a number of users. I would tell you, I was really excited the first time I used my smartphone to pay my transit fare. But as we're working out some of the bugs, the system is becoming more and more reliable. And I know, and I was kind of hoping Mr. Knight would refer to it in his comments, because we chatted a bit earlier this week, that a lot of us are already seeing the benefit of faster fare transactions. And I know Ed and his group in finance are enjoying some of the internal control tools that it's bringing. I'll just finish up. I know this is running a little long, but we gave you a kind of a short agenda today. I always try to update you on the RTA side. Previously reported that 2 of our 4 locomotives on the Star have been completely rebuilt. Mount Juliet Station, the work we've been doing over there to expand parking and to do general station upgrades and tie it into Mount Juliet's trail system is complete. And we're now working with the developer of a mixed-use development, transit-oriented development on the other side of the tracks to do a dual boarding platform at Mount Juliet Station, so folks in that development will be able to board the trains directly when they pull into the station. Further, our procurement staff are currently working on a solicitation for vendors to help us try to figure out what to do with the Star over the long term in terms of expansion. And then the last thing I would report on, because I always like to close with good news. Ed reported in his report that Dunkin' Donuts at WeGo Central is back open. Nobody's more excited for Dunkin' Donuts coffee than I am, but I also have to highly recommend their revised menu, and particularly their bagel bites. I've been trying to lose some weight during the pandemic, and I have a feeling the bagel bites are going to reverse progress on that, but they're definitely worth the price of admission. So other than that, unless there are any questions, Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
I have no questions. What a great report. But I don't know about those Dunkin' Bites. I haven't tried those yet. I might have to when this COVID ends. Anybody have any questions for Steve? I have a very, I'm sorry.
Yeah, my only question is, can we get from Steve or Rita the identification of the persons in that 15.73% persons and or entities that are providing services under the Gresham Smith Partners Agreement?
Sure.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Steve? I have sort of a short report, and let me just start first with our condolences to the family of our driver. And none of this is easy, and it's hard, and for families that are struggling with this, our heart goes out. And Steve, if there is something that we as a board can do with this family, I would appreciate you letting us know in any kind of way. It's important for us to be here for everybody who's doing this. And I think I say it a lot. I have deep appreciation and admiration for everybody who is doing the work that's being done to make certain our city can get to and from where they need to be. And so my heart breaks for their family. And my heart breaks also for families who are suffering and having to go through just what they go through, right? And so whatever ways that we can continue to help, whatever ways we can support you in making certain that we keep everybody safe, we are here to help you with enforcement, mandates, whatever it takes. We are here to support that. And in the meantime, we will certainly be vigilant in our thoughts, our prayers. And I do appreciate all that everybody is doing. It's just really hard times for a lot of people, but just want to certainly make certain it's clear that we're here. It's uptick in numbers, but the downtick is also maybe something going in the right direction. You all have been going through so much. We just talked about the death and also the numbers going up. But also, you had to deal with the downtown bombing on Christmas Day. And I wanted to also say to you all that you all were very supportive with the city and Metro Police and Metro government in responding to the needs of our city when that happened too. It's like every time we turn around, the point of pride just gets bigger and bigger because you always respond to the moment and you always rise up. And Steve, through your leadership, no matter what, no matter even what you might be dealing with personally, you always rise up. And so does the staff, and so do our drivers, and so does everybody else. And so, again, that was one more example of you rising up. And I could not be more proud than to serve on this board and to be a partner with you all in the work that you do. So I am so grateful. And it is worthy of an applause because those are hard things. Those are hard things, and you all seem to do it effortlessly, but I know you don't do it effortlessly. And I know that it weighs on each and every one of you in many ways, but grateful for you all. With that being said, too, I want to echo Walter's sentiments about Faye DeMassimo and the work that she's doing in the mayor's office. And I would agree that a lot of gratitude to this work because of this plan and because of her work and her persistence. You know, projects like this will continue to rise up for us and hopefully keep moving that way. In terms of the conversations about us talking about the budget as a board, Mary has, new member, stepped up to say that she'd help with really putting our thoughts on paper. And I appreciate, Mary, you stepping up to sort of say in volunteering to do that. So thank you very much. So I do appreciate that. Mr. Knight, Mr. Bull, always stepping in and giving us good comments so that we can be better. I appreciate that a lot. You know, it's those comments and those two, they don't give public comments just to be heard. They do them so we can be better. And I do appreciate that. I see Mary's in the chat today, so I want to thank her for her comments. It's hard for me to read the chat and sort of do a meeting, but I did see her name come up a couple of times, so thank you.
Sheila Hanson's on also.
Sheila, I said Mary, I meant Sheila. Sheila, I'm sorry. But Sheila, thank you for being on and for all the time that you bring good comments to help us be better. So thank you all very much. And to my board members, you know, you all are always standing in to make certain that MTA WeGo is better, as best board ever, and grateful. And today all of us are here, and it's the beginning of a new year, and we're going to rock. I felt the spirit, and I felt the energy, and I felt, like you said, Hannah, it just looks like we're making progress. And I felt it all today, and it feels good. So with that, I will conclude my report. And again, Steve, we're here. If you need us, we are here. And I want you to always know that in unison, we support the work that's being done at MTA and WeGo. And that concludes my report. Anything from anybody else before we move for adjournment?
Gail, one final time, Mr. Bull says he is on the line.
Mr. Bull, are you on the line? Mr. Bull, are you there?
Yeah. Are you getting 5 by 5?
I got you, Mr. Bull. Give me 1 minute and let's go, because I know somebody's got to leave out of here by 4 o'clock. So give me 1 minute. What you got, Mr. Bull?
Okay. I'm continuing to shelter in place, riding number 14 and 23. I'm delighted to see that the spring changes are going to address crowding by running more frequently. Quick Ticket is just working. There's some technical stuff. I'll get with the staff on that. When I ride, I'm wearing double mask with face protection. I look like Spider-Man. But hey, rather be safe. And I'm sorry to hear about the driver. Y'all are doing a wonderful job. Y'all got to go. Oh, New Year, Chinese New Year is coming up middle of February. Y'all celebrate with appropriate social distancing and wearing masks. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Bull, and you stay safe.
Oh, we'll do it.
All right, if you're doing the Spider-Man thing, just don't crawl up a building or a bus on the side, okay? Just do the rest of it. All right, stay safe. If there's nothing further, I will call for a motion for adjournment.
Move adjourned.
And is there a second?
Second, Janet Miller.
All in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. See you next week.
Chair.